He is also one of the best Saturday Night Live hosts. I'm so thrilled and just a little intimidated to welcome Austin Butler.
And then that's how I ended up getting my first manager, was through this actress named Lindsay Shaw on Makes Declassified. And so so we ended up, her manager ended up signing me. Her name is Pat Cutler, and she really set up, you know, she sent me to the right acting classes and all that, and then that's where I started getting my, you know, my start, really.
What was the point when you realized this was something that, you know, wasn't just a hobby that you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Well, it was when I started going to acting class, because, you know, I've talked about it a lot. I was such an introverted kid, and I don't know why I ended up saying yes to going onto a set, but it just seemed like a cool thing to do. And you can make $100 a day as a kid walking around in the background, so it seemed low pressure, you know. And then there's something in the beauty of seeing how the entire machine of making a film works together, and the whole dance of it, you know. And it was also, there were certain people that were on the set. So the second AD on that show, Ned's, his name was Vince Duque, and he's the first person who gave me Stella Adler's book. And then he said, "You got to watch East of Eden." And he started telling me things to watch. And so I owe him a lot, because he became sort of my first mentor. And then when I did Zoe 101, and he was the second AD on that as well. And, so I'd see him, you know, and he'd sort of give me acting coaching type thing. And so it was experiences like that, and then it was going to different acting classes and realizing it was a craft. And it's something you can get better at. And I remember, I mean, I still have that thing where, you know, you film an entire day, and then you're driving home in the car, and you're going, wow, I should have done a scene like that. You know? And so it's just always trying to minimize that as much as possible. And so that obsession started at that age of realizing, okay, what is it that James Dean's doing, you know, that I'm finding so compelling? And then it just became this love. I just started ingesting films like it was food and water, you know, and just trying to figure out how do you close that gap between where your skill is and where your taste is. You know, when you're watching those people like De Niro, and you're going, how is he doing that? And I still have that where I'm going, I gotta still close that gap, you know. I'm looking at those people and that are still inspire me so much to learn, you know.
But I'm seeing those people come up and compliment you, because I saw Tom Cruise pull you aside at the Oscar.
Yeah, that was really surreal.
What's that? I mean, I want to pick the coolest in your mind, but what's one that really stands out?
Yeah, I mean, it's that Tom Cruise situation was really, I mean, because I'd always heard that he looks at you like you're the only person in the world, and it's so true. I mean, he did not break eye contact, and it just, he really was so complimentary about the film, and then he's also saying things like, you know, I've seen all the press you've been doing, I'm so proud of you, and that just, I mean, it just meant the world to me. It's moments like that, and then, you know, after the BAFTAs the other night, I went back and...
Where you won, that's right.
Yeah, I really was not expecting it.
No, you were. He's the only person who looks surprised.
I was genuinely surprised. That was incredible. But yeah, after that, I went back and I got to see Leo, and I mean, he was my guy since I was so young that I looked up to, you know. And so I had this moment where I was sitting on a couch with him, and Baz came up and he just was saying how much it meant to him to see the two of us together, you know, because we individually had so many experiences with Baz, but to have somebody that I've looked up to my entire life suddenly take me under his wing a bit and give me advice and that sort of thing, just, I kind of just flashed myself back to being that 12-year-old kid doing extra work and just falling in love with acting for the first time, and just thinking, if that kid knew that he'd be sitting on a couch with his hero all those years later, it's really surreal. I was talking about this movie for like a year. But, yeah, that basically, I think most people know, you know, my mom passed away when I was 23, and that's the same age Elvis was when his mom died. And so that was the first key into his humanity. And so it came out of this nightmare about my mom, and I woke up from that and just thought, I gotta put that into, you gotta put that to use somehow, because otherwise it's just gonna be an awful day. And the first thing that came to my mind was put it in a song, and Unchained Melody came to my mind. And I had not read the script. I had an audition for the film, but I just, for whatever reason, I just thought that there's something in those lyrics that it's not a romantic song per se. I could sing that to my mom. And so I sat down at the piano and I played and sang it to my mom and just kind of let all that emotion come out. Because I tried to make a couple other tapes of me singing beforehand, but I just saw this impersonation, because it was all me trying to do the physical things. And in that moment, I'd just woken up, my hair was a mess, and I was in a bathrobe, and I sat down at the piano, and it wasn't trying to look like Elvis, it was just trying to feel that genuine emotion that I knew he would have felt. And then I just filmed it once, and then I sent that off. And then I was sort of reminded the other day, I had to go in for Denise as well, and film this audition with her. Baz actually reminded me of that the other day, because he said, the one thing you did that nobody else did in that scene, because we actually did a scene, it was a scene from Tennessee Williams' Orpheus Descending.
Oh wow! Okay.
And yeah, so that was the scene that he chose, and I started the scene with my back to the camera, and that's what Baz said. He said it was. We've always kind of, you know, we talked about this a lot, and it's funny when memories start coming back, but we always said that it was the audition tape of me sending that song, but it was that, and then this audition that I did with Denise, and Baz said, everybody else just did the scene forward, but you had your back to the camera. So you started talking, and then eventually you turned, and he said, in that moment you made your entrance. And suddenly now it was this compelling thing. And he said every scene he's looking for the entrance and the exit. So yeah, just as like, you all, you know what it's like going to auditions. And that was just something, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, and then when you watch the film, you realize that that's how Baz's mind was thinking, that you don't see my face for so much of the first part of the film. So it's kind of interesting how those things work. Unchained Melody is the last thing I sing in the film, and you don't see my face for the whole first part. So it was, yeah, our minds were kind of on the same page in that way.
You put that on, is that like the final piece locking into place?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that's in that. I mean, Catherine Martin is a genius, and it is. Because it all, that's the weird thing, like we know that it's an illusion, you know? We know that we're, you know, and you're trying to suspend disbelief as much as you possibly can. And so that's why I just tried to leave no stone unturned myself in that way of all the little mundane things of trying to just find the humanity of him and not see him as this icon or the Halloween costume, but instead see the man who had to get up and he had to brush his teeth. How does Elvis brush his teeth? How does he eat breakfast in the morning? All those little things that just make you feel like he's a real person, because he was. And then you get to set, and the attention to detail that Catherine Martin put into it. I mean, clothes change the way you feel. I mean, we all know that. You know, you go out and one outfit and you don't feel confident, you go on another and you go, I feel pretty good today. And you know, that's and it changes the way you walk, and it changes so much. And I had an acting teacher before. His name was Howard Fine. He's here in LA, and he's one of my oldest mentors. And he told me about Udo Hagen saying it's all the way down to the underwear. You know, it's like that. Every little detail just helps you to believe more. It helps you to move like them more. And, so the amount of fittings that Catherine Martin and I did was unlike anything. I tried on so many jumpsuits.
You know, I wore one for Halloween.
Oh yeah, you
and
did.
Those are
That's
heavy.
right. They are heavy.
But your jumpsuits drag you down.
They sure do. Yeah, I told you about the time I got stitches.
No, I'm not sure.
Did I not tell you that?
I'm sorry, it's terrible.
So you guys just saw the Burning Love montage where you're watching sort of the decay start to happen. We filmed that in one day, and so they would basically, we put on a blue jumpsuit and I'd go out there and sing Burning Love a couple times, and then I'd go and change into a red jumpsuit, come out, and then each time progressively the karate got a little sloppier, and you know, you're kind of progressively allowing the decay to happen. And towards the last take that we did of that day, I forget which one I was in. I think it was a black jumpsuit, but I'd never tried on the cape that went with it, because they had that made, and so it had all these studs on the back. And it was the heaviest one. I'd never tried on a cape that heavy, and so we put it on, and I went out there and we did the song, and I'd had all these different versions of the performance that I wanted to do, you know. So, I mean, one I'm jumping on Lamar Fike's back, or, you know, the bra is on my head, or whatever those things were. And in this one, I wanted to do the thing that Elvis did, where he grabs the guitar and he throws it back to Charlie Hodge. And so I went to do it, but as I brought the guitar forward, the cape was so heavy, it swung around and it grabbed the back of the guitar. And I had to launch this guitar because he's about 25 feet behind me. And so I start trying to get some velocity on this guitar, but it caught the cape, so I tilted the guitar. And when I did that, what I didn't realize is that the head of the guitar was going to hit me right in the face. So it hit me in the face, and I threw it and caught it. So it made it all the way back to him, and I saw stars. And so I kept going with the song, and then we finished the take, and I go, let's do another. And I see Baz looking at the monitor, and he's looking at me. Looks at the monitor, he looks up at me, and then he walks up really gently, and he goes, okay, you're bleeding. And I said, let's do one with the blood. Let's go with the blood. And he goes, I think it's quite bad. We need to take you in the back room. And he takes me in the back room, and I look, and there's this gash on my forehead. And he goes, I think you need to get stitches. And so they had somebody come and give me stitches that day. And then thankfully it was on a Friday. So the crew got to go home half. You know, it was a half day. I got to go home early, and then we came back on Monday. Yeah, that was that one.
That has to mean so much. I got to imagine it's the best review you could ask for.
It's the best review I'll get in my life, for sure. You know, this whole thing has felt like so much more than a movie. You know, and Baz talks about everything around the film. You know, and you know, somebody the other day was saying, oh, so Priscilla was involved during the course of the whole film, but she wasn't. I mean, Baz met with her a lot in the beginning, and then I met with her, but then once we started in production, she wasn't reading the scripts, and as the scripts changed, and there was a moment where she was really kind of concerned that, you know, she hadn't been involved in this, and did we screw up her story, you know, and were we going to do him justice? And so by that point, I was terrified, you know. I knew the day that she was going to watch the film, and I was just sick to my stomach, just thinking, if she doesn't like this, and if the family doesn't like this, I'll just be, I just will never want to leave the house again, you know. And then Baz said, I got something for you, and he was staying at the chateau, and so I went and picked him up, and just the two of us in the car, and we went and we were driving to dinner, and he started reading me this email from Priscilla, and she said all these just amazing things, and at one point she said, if Elvis was here today, he'd say, hot damn, that is me. And I was like, I was going to pour
That's crazy intimidating.
Yeah, we did a screening at Grayson, and she'd already seen the film, but I had never met her before. And it's a really interesting thing when you spend so much time trying to get into the mind of a person that happens to be her father, you know, and all those scenes of, you know, in the car, and the moments of having to say goodbye to her as a little girl. I'd spent so much time feeling so much love for her through him. And suddenly now I was in Graceland, and we were outside the screening room, and they walked me down this hallway, and I turned the corner, and she turned around just at that moment. We just made eye contact from across the hallway, and she just got tears in her eyes, and I got tears in mine, and I just came up, and she opened her arms, and we just hugged each other for so long. And she said, I want to talk to you in private, and we went into a back room, and then she just told me what it meant to her. And then later on that night, she took me into Elvis's bedroom, and we just sat on his bed for hours and just talked. And those are the things that are the biggest gift of anything.